why do people join cults, and what are the personality traits that make you most likely to join a cult? This is when we actually do have answers on, and there are two things that scholars have found that make you likely to join a cult, or that make you likely to fall for a cult if one targets you. Because I always like to frame this from the perspective of the reason people join cults is because cult leaders build cults, and then cult recruiters go out and con and deceive and manipulate people to get them into the cults. And you usually don't even know what you signed up for until you are long locked in. But two things that experts have found that make people likely to be open to be manipulated by a cult is one, being a seeker, and two, a dearth of social connections. So what does that mean? Being a seeker is like someone who's seeking to answer life's big problems, someone who's dissatisfied with the social systems of the day, someone who is looking for more community, someone who realizes that things are not working for them and they want to build something better. And there's a reason that cults pop up in times of social turmoil, right? The world is very scary. People are literally seeking something new. Also, I feel like if you're an adult that reads books, you're a seeker. So I will forever say that being a seeker is not a bad thing. It's just something you should know about yourself. The second one is a lack of social connections. And that one I think is very important. There was this thing called deprivation theory when cults, in the 60s and 70s when the big bad cult stuff happened. And it was assumed, and it still is by lay people, that people join cults because of lack of money or lack of intelligence. And that has been completely disproven really by the surge of people who joined cults in the 60s and 70s. A Harvard educated lawyer died on the Branch Davidian side at Waco, Texas. The Arab Spring showed clearly that people will join extreme groups when they are plenty intelligent and have plenty of money. So the only thing that they've found is a lack of social connections. And there's this really good point in Sarah Edmondson's book, Scarred. Sarah Edmondson wrote a book about, walking into NXIVM with her eyes wide open because she's a seeker. And this is exactly what happens to her. She's pulled in, she's conned, she's manipulated. And I was reading it for Cult Book Club, which you can sign up for in the link. It's $120. We do 12 books in 12 months. 12 cult books. And so I was asking myself as I was reading it the second time, I was like, okay, where could she have looked around and noticed that something was really, really wrong? And I think it's at her wedding. So Sarah and Nippy, by the way, have a wonderful podcast called A Little Bit Culty. Definitely check it out. Yes, I've been on it. And at their wedding, only people from NXIVM are there. Right? And this is also why I think that I agree with people who say that small towns can get culty. Because if all of your social connections know each other, then the group norms are going to be so much stronger and stricter to abide by. This is why you can dress like however you want in New York City, but you do it in Midland, Texas, and it's going to be a big effing deal. So, about social connections. And so I'm always telling people, myself included, who's trying to raise a thinker child who might end up being the perfect person to get manipulated by a cult, is make sure they have a whole bunch of social connections, which means you need to have a whole bunch of social connections that are varied and different and are of different races and different creeds and different perspectives and who all don't know each other. Because that is going to be one of your safest ways. There was a Scientology, high-level recruiter who left and who was asked the question, what was the number one thing that stopped people from joining? And they said it's in their first encounter when somebody's interested and a friend comes by and is like, nah, we're not doing this. Makes me think of the people in the mall. And of course, Scientologists did recruit in malls, right? But in those kiosks that want to get you. And if you get stopped, you can count on a friend to be like, nope, not interested. Moving on. So be that person for your friends. And finally, what can we do to help people leave cults? Well, this one is less of a good answer because nobody really has a way. There's no legal assured way to crack somebody's brainwashing. And when I say this, please believe that I mean it, because my grandfather still runs the money for the Children of God, right? If there was a way to crack people's brainwashing, we would have done it. And so the best advice we have to give people is try to keep lines of communications open. Try not to be the one that burns the bridges, and hope that when they leave it, they will contact you. And then, like, be prepared to forgive them for some of the things that they did or said while they were under the influence. And I understand that some things aren't forgivable and some relationships are going to be changed forever, and we have to understand that as well. But one of, I think, the most hidden exit costs is having to go back to the life you had before, that you completely disregarded, the friends and family who you may have said awful things to, or even told like they were crazy or they were something, because they weren't seeing the light the way that you were. So, and then finally, again, it's just this reminder that, like, yes, cult joiners have agency and they make decisions, but the thing that makes people join cults is that cults go out and hook them. And sometimes literally hook them. The Children of God call themselves hookers for Christ, based on a Bible verse in Matthew that says, I will make you fishers of men. But of course, they meant that to mean religious prostitution. Oh, and I wrote all about the Children of God and that craziness, and you can buy this anywhere you buy books. It is on audio. The New York Times loves it. And you can get autographed copies in the link in my bio. Usually they're attached to my videos, but I'm in the doghouse with TikTok today because they don't like my account topics.